Welcome back, dear learners. Let us continue Ode to Psyche. As you all of know that we have already done 3 stanzas of this poem. Now we are going to discuss in detail the last stanza of the poem. That is right in front of you. Let us start this poem without any further ado. See, yes, I will be thy priest and build a fane. Fane, remember my dear students, fane means temple. In some untrodden, you know this, unstepped, unexplored, that very particular just area that is not explored. E-X-P-L-O-R-E-D, explored. Explored, opposite of explored, untrodden. Untrodden means unexplored. Reason, a particular area of my mind. So he says that I'm just going to be your priest. I shall be your priest. Here he is offering this goddess himself as a priest. He says he is going to build a temple. He's going to build a temple of this goddess in the unexplored area of his own mind. That very particular area of his own mind where no thought related to any person has entered. So here he is going to give a safe place to this goddess as her abode, as her dwelling place, and that place will be untrodden. Nobody has entered. Nobody has till now entered that very particular just a part of his own brain where he is going to place this goddess, or where he is going to create a divine world for this goddess. See the next line of the poem. Where branched thoughts new grown with pleasant pain, two opposites, oxymoron. So he says that in that very particular just a part of my own brain, what will happen? My thoughts, my life-giving thoughts, my powerful thoughts will work out just like the branches of the trees work out and spread. He says that his thoughts will branch out just like the branches of the trees, and he will be able to manage pain and pleasure. Means pain and pleasure will no longer have a kind of a negative impact on him. You know that the life of this very particular poet was full of sufferings, full of sorrows, but he says that his pain will no longer be pain giving. His pain will become a kind of a pleasure giving pain. If this goddess enters that untrodden part of his own brain, it means here he is trying to find pleasure. He's trying to find pleasure amid sufferings, in the ocean of suffering, in the ocean of pain. And that's why particularly he's trying to create a world out of the power of his own imagination, or using his powerful imagination. Is just trying to create a world of his own, where he could find a bit comfort from the harsh reality of this world. Why? Because you know that he yokes two worlds, mortal and immortal, pleasure and pain. That's why he says that if he is going to create a world of his own imagination, particularly for this goddess, definitely his pain, sufferings of this world to somehow will become a kind of a pleasure giving, or become a kind of a become a kind of a become a kind of a soft, somehow he will succeed in soften his suffering, soften his pains. See what he says further. Instead of pine shall murmur in the wind. So he says that in my own world of imagination, there will be no pine trees to create a kind of a murmur with the help of the moving branches with the leaves. He says that there will be no murmuring like noise made by the just pine trees in the jungle in his own mighty imaginary world of his own imagination. So he says that the world is going to imagine, or the world is going to create using the might of his own imagination. In that very particular world, there will be no pine trees to create a kind of a murmuring sound. Murmuring sound is a kind of a complaining sound, is a kind of a, that sound cannot be a kind of a soft, pleasure giving sound. He says, far, 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 far around shall those dark clustered trees. So he says that my world, the world of my own imagination, will be far, far away from this real, tangible world, where there will be no pain, there will be no suffering. That world will absolutely be different world. That world will have a heaven-like atmosphere, or that world will be not. That world will be just like the paradise. Means this goddess will have a very different kind of a world in comparison with this human world. And that world, the world he is going to create out of his own imagination, will be far away from this tangible world full of suffering and problems. He says, fledged means to cover. Fledge means F-L-E-D-G-E. Fledge means to cover. Fledge the while. Ridged means this sharp, just a slope of the mountains. Steep by steep also sharp, just a slopey mountain. So he says that his world, the world he is going to create particularly for this goddess, will be far, far, far away from this real world of the humans. Maybe on the top of the some mountain, hidden far away, hidden with the help of different things from this real world of the humans. He says, and thereby zephyrs means soft west wind, soft blowing of the wind, particularly from the west is called a zephyr. Streams means rivers and birds and bees. So he says that his world will be absolutely different in comparison with this human world. There will be soft breeze. There will be soft breeze there in his own world. Birds will be there. Just a river would be there, and the birds and the rivers would just produce a kind of a sweet sound. So sweet that sound would be that beautiful sound will work like magic on the protecting spirit of the just a jungle that is dry, and that soft sweet sound will just help that very particular protecting spirit to have a pleasant and peaceful sleep in in his world of imagination. And that world of imagination will be nowhere else save in the safest corner and the safest part of his own brain. See the next slide of the poem, what he says. The moss lane. Lane means, to some you can say this, hidden of the word. Dry shall be lulled. Lulled means comforted to sleep. And the midst of wild quietness. So in the midst of the wide quietness. And he says, and in that untrodden, unexplored world of my own imagination, he will cultivate a divine paradise. He will create a kind of a divine paradise with the help of his powerful thoughts. His thoughts will do magic or work magic or create wonderful things there in his mighty brain, or with the help of his mighty imagination. See what he says. And in the midst of the wide quietness, since his world of imagination will be far away from this human world, far away, so that place would definitely be absolutely wide, with no plants, no trees, just like this human world has that. And there he will have his hills, he will have his flowers, everything according to his liking, according to his desires, and bearing in mind the requirements of his goddess, that is Psyche. Psyche, that means soul. See, he says, a rosy sanctuary. Sanctuary is a kind of a well-protected part of the jungle where certain species of the animals are placed or put particularly for protecting them from all kind of dangers. But here he says a rosy sanctuary will dress with the reed trellis. Trellis is a kind of a structure or the kind of a frame used for partitioning or dividing certain thing of working brain. So see, he says that how will his imaginary world be absolutely different, and he will cultivate a world of his own choice, of his own liking, and the world he will create there will absolutely be different world in comparison with this human world. And in that paradise, the paradise he will create out of his own imagination, in his own mighty brain, in his own mighty mind, that will absolutely be far away from this or beyond the imagination of this human world. He says, see, with the reed trellis of working brain, with the buds and bells and stars without a name. So there will be flowers. There will be, you see this, he says, there will be stars. There would be bells, but without name. His thoughts will grow out. His thoughts will grow out in such a manner that they will create a world, and that world would absolutely be different world out of the touch of this humanity. The sufferings of the humanity would never ever be able to touch that imaginary or that imagined world he will create. He says, and that's why he says that everything will be there, but without name. He says, see this. Who breeding the flowers, sorry, this line, with all the gardener fancy ever could paint. And he says that the world, the paradise, he will create out of his imagination in the paradise of his own, just in the paradise of his own, just imaginary world. There will be a gardener, there will be a protecting spirit, and that protecting spirit will none other than be fancy. Fancy will be the garden of his paradise, paradise of his mighty imagination. And that fancy will create or produce or grow such kind of flowers that this human world would never have even imagined. He says the flower that will grow there will, if one kind of a flower grows there, that kind of a flower will not be grown or will not grow again. Means every time a new kind of a flower will grow in the mighty just a paradise of the imagination of the poet John Keats. He said, who breeding flowers will never breed the same. So he says that the gardener of his imaginary world will cultivate such kind of flowers that only once a certain kind of a flower will be grown there. If a certain color flower is grown first time, definitely the second time that flower will not be grown. A different kind of a flower will be grown or will be brought out into existence by the gardener. Means the gardener will have a choices of his own to produce out or to grow out different kind of flowers with different fragrance and a different hue, almost every time different. See this. And there shall be for thee all soft delight that shadowy thought can win. And he says, and you will have all the reasons to be delighted. You will be delighted and you will be amused and entertained. Means those multiple my mighty thoughts, my thought that will work out like the branch of the trees, work out like the paradise, like the garden of the paradise, and produce out different kind of flowers and different kind of things which will be showered upon you or rained upon you in such a manner that you will enjoy permanent and eternal kind of a summer, eternal kind of a joy in your own life. He says that shadowy thought can win, and in this way, by his mighty just thoughts, mighty just by his mighty power of imagination, he will win the favor of this goddess forever. He says, we see the last concluding line of the poem. A bright torch and a casement ope at night to let the warm love in. He says, and there will be light. There will be light in his own paradise, in his paradise of imagination, of his own imagination. And in that world, or in that world of his own imagination, there will be a window, and that window will particularly be open in the night time, particularly for Cupid, particularly for Eros to make his entry inside the world of Psyche, in the dead of the night, through that window, that they can meet. It means, he says, that his world will be absolutely different, and blessed with all the luxuries, all the charm, all the happiness, and all this will be created by the mighty thoughts of his own brain. Why? Because this world will be nowhere else than his own brain. So he says that there will be a window, that window will be open in the night time, particularly for Eros or Cupid to make his entry in the world of, to make his entry into the world of Psyche, where they can sit and have their time. So thank you, my dear learners. I hope you may have understood this understood this very particular poem, my dear learners. So my dear learners, that's it in this very particular video. Thank you for watching, my dear learners. My dear learners, before going, I would make a personal appeal to you to please follow my channel, subscribe my channel, and give your love to my channel, my dear learners. Once again, my dear learners, thank you for watching this video.